Superman has had some dumb powers over the years. Lovable dumb moments, to be fair. From wacky concepts that only the Silver Age could produce to abilities that are the product of some strange DC gimmick, the Man of Steel has a very interesting set of skills that have been abandoned over the years. So today we are taking a look at some of those abilities with our list of the top 10 dumbest powers you didn't know Superman has. Or had. And some of these are actually pretty questionable. Starting us off in at number 10, he can clone himself. Once upon a time, Superman made a duplicate of himself, and this wasn't even initially a product of the Silver Age. This actually happened in the 90s. And the 60s, which is the Silver Age. Oh, and also the 30s, which is the Golden Age. Okay, let's backtrack for a sec. In 1963, there was a story in which, due to proximity to red kryptonite, Superman was split into two versions, Superman Red and Superman Blue. Now this happened when Superman is hooked up to a brain machine, which accidentally duplicates him. This story was later adapted in 1998 in a storyline called Superman Red and Superman Blue, in which Superman had developed energy-based abilities. Now to be fair, this actually happened before, back in the Golden Age in the live-action Adventures of Superman series, when he split himself in half in order to save himself and Lois from an old collapsed mine shaft that they were stuck in. But still, that was 1938, we can give them some leeway. The 90s though? There's not really an excuse for that, DC. In at number 9, the Superman diet. Oh, the Silver Age. Superman's Silver Age legacy has left us with a bunch of wonderfully dumb comic book covers and plots. Case in point, this issue of Action Comics number 454, in which Superman is shoveling burgers into his mouth while shouting in between bites, "More burgers! Keep them coming or I'll starve to death!" He's also hunched over like he's taking a dump on a camping trip in the forest. It's pretty great. So what exactly is going on here? In multiple iterations of the superhero, the Man of Steel has stated that he receives all the energy he needs from the sun rather than needing food for sustenance. It's thanks to his Kryptonian physiology. But sometimes he eats to fit in, or just because he wants to. And in this case, we see him in need of more energy thanks to Toyman siphoning off his strength. Not only did this weaken Superman, but he felt like he was starving, hence eating all of those burgers as a means of countering Toyman's device. While this power hasn't officially been retconned, it sure has not been revisited. Side note, the cover of this issue also has a burger joint restaurant in the background that has 3 golden arches. In at number 8, phasing through matter. In The Death of Superman, a story arc some of you know I have serious beef with, Superman and Doomsday punch each other to death and a whole ridiculous story arc is spawned from it, inevitably ruining the concept of death in comics. Let's leave it at that for now. Years later, in Superman issue 175, the Man of Steel found himself coming face to face with Doomsday yet again. And what does he do? He phases through Doomsday's punches. Come on, DC! What the hell? Apparently this is a similar ability to what the Flash has, where he moves so fast and vibrates his molecules so that he can phase through objects and individuals. The real kicker though? Superman possessed phasing powers back in 1958 in an episode of Adventures of Superman. Guess DC just ignored that altogether. Guess they can just create powers when necessary and take them away when they want to turn a profit. Sorry, getting a little salty over here. Let's move on to something a little bit more lighthearted. In at number 7, super imagination. Unfortunately, this is not what it sounds like. Super imagination was the name given to an ability of Clark's that was initially called telescopic vision. This occurred thanks to a reprint of a story that appeared in Superman Annual Issue 2. So what exactly is super imagination? It's his ability to look back through time. And his use of it was even more absurd. Superman used his super imagination to send a giant ape named Titano, who shot kryptonite from its eyes, back to prehistoric times. He also created special lead sunglasses for the ape so he would stop shooting kryptonite out of his eyes. That was a sentence. Moving on to number 6, telekinesis. During John Byrne's run on Superman, the Man of Steel had a new power added to his roster. Telekinesis, the ability to move things with his mind. Now according to the creator, this enabled Superman's ability to fly. Apparently Superman flying was a form of self-telekinesis in which an invisible force field engulfed him and caused him to float. In addition to this, the telekinesis power also apparently explained his invulnerability, somehow. As if that wasn't bad enough, the concept was adopted by the 1987 film adaptation Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. A telekinetic beam shoots out of the hero's eyes, lifting people off of the ground. He then uses it to repair the Great Wall of China. To be fair, that Sego Superman film adaptations gave him a slew of really odd powers that generally faded into obscurity altogether, so wouldn't think much of it. Moving on to number 5, telepathy. In a 1947 issue of Superman, number 45, Clark finds himself going up against aliens called the Collectors in a story titled The Case of the Living Trophies. Now, this alien race's whole shtick is collecting notable people, which apparently includes Lois Lane, so naturally Superman seeks them out and investigates all of their disappearances. He ends up getting captured by the Collectors, but uses telepathy in order to force his captor to free him, communicating with this alien without even uttering a word. Apparently this is something all Kryptonians can do, according to the second appearance of this ability in the Lois and Clark television series. Speaking of this wacky comic issue though, that brings us to our next number. And at 4, he can shapeshift. If you thought busting out telepathy powers was something special, hold up, because Superman outdoes himself with another power in that very same issue. After Superman breaks free of his captivity, he shapeshifts into a collector himself, and it's actually really kind of scary how he does it. He impersonates them, tricks the other collectors, and then rescues their human captives and uses a dimension traveling device to return home. How the hell did he shapeshift? Why hasn't he used this power before? And why did he never use it again? Well, I think we can all assume the answer to that last question, since this is the only time he has ever pulled that stunt. Up next, my personal favorite on this list, in at 3, super dancing. Oh. In the 1979 Superman Family issue 196, in a story titled Private Life of Clark Kent, Super Disco Fever, Clark is taken to a disco club forcefully by his fan club. It is worth noting that this fan club is a Clark Kent fan club, not a Superman fan club, the product of him being a news anchor at the Daily Planet building for the WGBS TV flagship television station. While judging a dance contest, he discovers that the bar is about to be bombed thanks to his X-ray vision. So what does he do? He decides to bust out some kick-ass disco moves, which vibrates the floor enough to damage the explosive trigger mechanism. The best part is, as he's shaking his booty, which it quite literally says on panel, we get to read his thought bubbles that state, "I saw enough of dancing before to pick up the basics." So apparently this is the first time that Clark has ever done any disco moves, and he's amazing, and the crowd's like, oh my god, and he saves the day. Oh, gotta love the Private Life of Clark Kent stories. So good. Up next at number 2, Mini Superman. Once upon a time, in Superman issue 125, the Man of Steel exhibited a particularly ridiculous and extremely memorable superpower that is so very characteristic of the Silver Age of comic books. In a story titled Superman's New Power, Superman encounters a strange alien ship that explodes on contact with him. His powers are altered, with all but flight and invulnerability removed. All of his other powers are replaced with an ability that lets him shoot out a miniature version of himself, called a Superman proxy, out of his fingers. Thus begins a crazy plot in which Superman starts to use his mini-me to do all of the hard work while he enjoys the perks of being a superhero. If this wasn't silly enough, the story takes it one step further, with Superman actually becoming jealous of his Superman proxy, who was starting to get all of the press attention. What? So what does Superman do? The only thing he can do. He lets the proxy sacrifice itself when a group of criminals try to kill Superman with a chunk of kryptonite. And with his mini-me dead, all of his regular powers return. This was an actual story, published in 1958. And last but not least, in at number 1, the Kryptonian healing coma. I am sorry, I had to. You know how earlier on we mentioned that whole phasing ability that managed to make the absurdity of the Death of Superman arc even totally more absurd? Well, this is how the Death of Superman arc was actually resolved. DC didn't kill off the Man of Steel, rather he just looked dead. Yeah, he had fallen into something coined as a Kryptonian coma, a healing coma that only Kryptonians are capable of, which can nurture them back to health even if they're near death. Of course, this outraged fans, and me, who called DC out on their story arc that clearly was trying to capitalize on hype and turn a profit, and inevitably ruin the concept of death in comic books. I promise I won't rant about it any more than that. Alright, there we have it, friends. What other powers of Superman's do you think are completely crazy from his past? Give us a shout in those comments below and let us know your thoughts and feels. If you dug this video, you guys know what to do. Hit that thumbs up button, share it with a friend, and be sure to subscribe to Top 10 Nerd if you haven't already. We'd love it if you stuck around some more. In the meantime, thanks for watching. I will catch you all in the next video.